paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories, keeping babies alive and selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. What the hell? That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. Literal vampire pot and the goblins are hobbling round coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
Horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. There's some horrors in this house. I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P word. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you've got for this wet ass P word. Beat it up, N word, catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top, I wanna ride. I do a kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. And continue along these lines. And it gets significantly more vulgar. Like, a lot more vulgar.
I keep that thing on me. God damn it, Bobby. They see me selling propane and now they trying to copy. Pretend to be broke, but I got hella cash. If you use charcoal, I'ma kick your ass. Made this money from propane, bitch. I feel like Pablo Escobar, but I don't sell cocaine, bitch. Shot that fella cause he didn't make his payments. Fuck with me, I keep a rocket launcher in my basement. Made this money from propane, bitch. I feel like Pablo Escobar, but I don't sell cocaine, bitch. Shot that fella cause he didn't make his payments. Fuck with me, I keep a rocket launcher in my basement. Oh man, goddamn, I caught Bobby jacking off. Syrup ain't no cough. Big Hank, break the law. Lady Bird, that's my dog. Peggy got that wet, I'll flip you like a tech deck. Yeah, I run my set, I'm running up them checks. If you using charcoal, that's a red dot at your head. Propane till I'm dead, bitch, I'm off the meds. We be smoking loud, and you smoking on mid. Me and Dale getting lit, and I'm running from the feds. Made this money from propane, bitch. I feel like Pablo Escobar, but I don't sell cocaine, bitch. Shot that fella cause he didn't make his payments. Fuck with me, I keep a rocket launcher in my basement. Made this money from propane, bitch. I feel like Pablo Escobar, but I don't sell cocaine, bitch. Shot that fella cause he didn't make his payments. Fuck with me, I keep a rocket launcher in my basement.
Your dreams go down the drain. Come on, wagey, join the crew. Don't you want your wages too? And if the boss man makes you blue, you deserve it, you're a screw. Killing comes round after ages. You can come collect your wages. Through your bodies have your rages.
Alright, let's go! Hey everybody, the Be Weird broadcast. Yo, I'm weird. I want you to be weird. Let's have a good show. How's it going, everybody? We're descending into the night circle of hell. Everything's awful. But we have each other. That's alright. That's kind of cool. Huh? It's gonna be alright. We'll get through this. I'm sure the news will get better. Positive vibes only. We got a nice chill Canadian here to help you digest the news. Yeah, parasocial relationships will save us. Oh boy. If you ever feel alone, you can always type an emote in the chat and you will feel less alone. This is science. This is how the brain works. I don't know anything about brains. I only know my own brain don't work. But how you doing? Good morning. It is a muggy day here in Montreal. Muggy, rainy, humid. And yeah, we talking about how cops aren't very helpful. Might not be very helpful at all. Yeah, 7 in the morning. Oh my god. Oh jeez. I might even rethink my schedule. I might try to do like an evening rep, just because I'm realizing my audience is Canadians, Americans, they're Westerners. I'm not getting any folk from across the pond as much as I used to. No Germans anymore. So yeah, I'm thinking I might just, depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks, you know, I got some changes happening, and that's gonna make a big difference. But hey, there's a big poetry show tomorrow in Montreal at l'Afro Musée. The Throw Poetry Collective is putting that on. I'll be hosting. It's going to be a good night. We got Dina Smith. We might even check out some of her poetry. She's got some fire content. And she's, yeah, I'm dope. I'm super excited. It's actually one of the first shows that we're like dropping hard coin on. And we got a lot of poets signed up already. So let's see here, how many poets we got signed up. Let's see. I gotta keep a close eye on that. We gotta cap it at 12. It's gonna be like a no stress slam. Normally there's like poets and winners and stuff. Yeah, we're at 10. Oh my god, 2 spots left. 2 spots left. I'm pretty excited. Oh my god, I haven't seen some of these voices in so long. It's pretty exciting. And yeah, it's gonna be like a no stress slam, so a bit more chill. There'll be scorecards and judges, but it'll be optional, I guess. I don't really know how this is gonna work. So we'll see. I'm gonna see if I can get a volunteer to take any TikToks, maybe. I think like a TikTok of each, or even just a recording and you upload to TikTok to YouTube to everywhere. I think that would be a good choice. And yeah, it should be good. It should be interesting. So that's on the good side. I'm gonna try to stream tomorrow, but I got I got a draft proposal. I got a proposal due Saturday at 11. So I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna work tonight. So I'll probably be hacking away at it tomorrow morning, which means stream will be later. I think so. We're fingers crossed. There's a big like $1,000 grant from Quebec Writers Federation for slam poetry. So I'm gonna try to enter myself in there with Tear Down the Statues. I'm looking to try to get a good clip of it. there's also, I think, yeah, there's like prizes going on. Accenti, an Italian magazine, has another $1,000 prize for poets worldwide. So, could be you. You got any poetry? Huh? Well, got some poetry for us? And yeah, I know the French scene is popping off. They're gathering in parks in the rain to go listen to each other. It's beautiful. So I gotta get back in there. I've been sort of missing out, cooped up too much. And it's gonna be a good show. I think it's gonna be a really interesting venue. It's like a museum for like important black folk in Montreal and in Quebec. So it should have a lot of interesting stuff to take pictures of and look around, and you know, it'll be a nice new venue. So yeah, I'm digging it. All right, let's get into the news. We are hanging around in purgatory. Things are chill. But now we're gonna start, like Dante, descending. You know, abandon hope, all ye who enter. Because I've been following this story as it develops, and it keeps changing. I feel gaslit. I honestly feel gaslit. I have no idea what I read and learned about yesterday. Because today, we're getting totally different stories. Very different explanation of what happened. So we're gonna dig into that. There was a really powerful piece in the Atlantic that I only caught a couple snippets of, but from what I read, it was really well written. So I think we're gonna start there because it's going to sort of capture the spiritual nadir, like the low point of this whole moment, and early on. Okay, so let's go check that out. Okay, I'm not sure if the Nintendo music is totally gonna... Who is controlling the narrative right now? Right now the police are controlling the narrative, and that's kind of been uncomfortable for a lot of people. And even just on our stream, we saw yesterday some of the conflicting reports based off of the video footage, and we're about to cover a bunch of very intense quotes that are deeply confusing compared to what we've been hearing. Also, good morning, Lacey. How are you today? So yeah, the Atlantic put out a piece called "A Culture That Kills Its Children Has No Future." An America vacillating between violent struggle and idle nihilism is shuddering toward its end. By Elizabeth Brunig. I've heard of other people talk about this as the crumbles, as like as the empire crumbles, the things that sustain a society, all those little systems, start to fall apart. And one of those systems is culture. And I think the important part about this piece, I'm just sort of skipping through to find the stat. I think I had it ready, but I might not have. So let's just see here. I think, yeah, this is a really important, this is extremely important context. We can't really understand anything we're looking at until we digest this fact. Firearms overtook auto accidents as the leading cause of death in children. I'm sorry, fucking what? I'm sorry, what? Yeah, can you believe that? For decades, auto accidents have been the leading cause of death among children, but in 2020, guns are the #1 cause, researchers say. Overall, firearm-related deaths increased 13.5% between 2019 and 2020, but such fatalities for those 1 to 19 years old jumped nearly 30%, according to New England Journal of Medicine. And yeah, maybe we'll put some music on. Researchers analyzed data collected by the CDC and and showing that there were there were a record 45,000 firearm-related deaths in the U.S. in 2020. Deaths. Wow. Oh my God, not injuries. Patrick Carter, one of the authors of the research letter and co-director of the University of Michigan's Institute for Firearm Injury Prevention, said about 10% of those deaths, 4,357 in total, were children. Bro. Studies have shown that firearm violence increased during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, according to the research letter, the reason behind the increase in child deaths attributed to guns is unclear. I mean, what's your best guess, chat? What do you think's going on here? My goodness. My goodness. For decades prior to 2020, motor vehicle accidents were the leading cause of death among children. Carter tells NPR that the reason the two have swapped place is, quote, a tale of two stories. Firearm deaths we haven't made much progress on. In fact, it increased in recent years, and we have had a decrease in motor vehicle deaths, he said. According to a separate study, motor vehicle crashes were the leading cause of child deaths for more than 60 years. But over time, cars have become safer, and driver education has improved. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and others have pushed for better child safety in cars, taking a scientific approach to the problem, Carter said. And anyone who has like ever owned a car or driven in a car or been in more than two cars has noticed they've changed over time. Yeah, I'm not really sure who's the manager of America. Is it Biden right now? Can we talk to Biden? I think someone quipped on Twitter like, Biden is the only one whose tweets sound like, "Hey, who's the president of America? And what can he do about this problem?" Fucking Christ. Quote, "We can do the same thing with firearms. We just haven't been able to do that in the same amount of years yet," he said. "It takes time to figure out what the underlying issues are with the problem and then finding the solutions. The figures between adults and children and firearms are almost an inverted image of each other. For adults, 65% of gun-related deaths are attributed to suicide, while 30% are homicides, and about 2% come from accidental discharges," Carter said. For children, 65% of firearm deaths are homicides, and a third are categorized as suicide. And though mass shootings, which have drastically increased over the past 30 years, are clearly part of the problem, the vast majority of kids are killed by guns in smaller, day-to-day incidents, really. Most commonly, what makes the news is these horrific mass shootings, but they are a small aspect of the overall problem. The smallest, Carter said, the smallest portion are the mass shootings. It's these daily deaths that are occurring, making up the totality of what we are seeing. And there's a correction. A previous photo caption on the story said that firearms were the leading cause of death in the age of 19. In fact, firearms were the leading cause of death among that age group. Okay. So yeah, wow. Have guns existed longer than cars? Yes. Muskets? Muskets, right? But man, muskets were... I mean, you can't really... Like, even in... I think, like, when muskets were a thing, the main paradigm for military conflict was you'd set up lines facing each other. It was really stupid. And you would have two sets of people, two lines, one who could shoot, and then the others who would be like clearing out their chamber, putting in the bullet, stuffing in a bunch of gunpowder, taking out this big long stick, making sure it's all packed in nice and tight, or else it's not gonna combust the way it needs to. The bullet would just fall out, and then they take the place, and it led to just like, yeah, like a bunch of people dying. It was like a terrible type of warfare because you're just completely exposed. You had no cover, and you were meant to just like face battle in honor. And I think, what is it, like the Red Badge of Courage? Or there's like there's like books about like this type of just the way this gun shapes society. Yeah, muskets, man, they're crazy. Okay, so that is the context for this piece. This new technology has come out of the woodworks, and it is now destroying the very thing that society is meant for. This is what we do, the society thing. This is why I lose individual rights and pay taxes. Right? Like this, it's not about. It was used in the Toronto battle law or something like that. Oh gosh. Oh man. Yeah, I'm sure Canada had its history with the All right, let's go. Oh, this might be a tough read. The grieving people of Uvalde, Texas, a town in the hill country about 80 miles west of San Antonio, now confront the irreplaceability of life in one of its most ghastly and unnatural incarnations, the murder of at least 19 children and 2 adults, with several more injured. In the morning, they will join dozens of other communities scattered throughout the country where school shootings this year alone have injured or killed people. And in their special torture, these children were elementary schoolers. They still had the faintly round faces of babies. They will join the families of the children murdered at Sandy Hook Elementary School in another episode of stochastic annihilation only 10 years ago. And stochastic is like a math term. It means kind of like to pop up randomly. The analogy given is like if you boil a pot of water, where bubbles will start to emerge, but where they will emerge on the surface is kind of random, and that randomness is called stochastic. So stochastic annihilation, we don't know which elementary school is next, but there's enough temperature in the pot that it's likely to happen. Continuing on. Yet somehow that brief report of conditions on the ground understates both the scope and the nature of the problem. The nature of the problem, as best as I can tell, is that American life isn't about what is good, but is rather about nothing at all, which is, at least broadly inoffensive and inclusive of most tastes and creeds, or about violence itself. The scope of the problem includes every facet of life that culture touches, which means most every element of daily life. Violence begets injury, begets death. And any culture debased to vacillating between violent struggle and idle nihilism is shuddering towards its end as a culture of death. And a culture of death is like a prophecy or a sickness. It bespeaks itself in worsening phases. Right now, we find ourselves foreclosing upon our own shared future, both recklessly and deliberately, and perhaps gradually beginning to behave as if there is no future for us at all. Soon, I sometimes worry, we may find ourselves faced with a darkening present, no faith in our future, and a doomed tendency to chase violence with violence. This is already slapping really hard. Holy shit. This is kind of where I was coming from when I was tweeting, when I was kind of memeing that the pro-life movement has become a death cult. Like with overturning Roe v. Wade and forcing birth and causing death and not understanding how ectopic pregnancies work, like that. This is very much where I'm vibing right now. I can't look at some of the cultural movements moving through America right now without that in the back of my brain. That sort of we shall leave the mortal coil onto the next life kind of thing. Continuing on. The murders in Uvalde barely begin to describe the scale of American violence, but they do provide insight into its character. School shootings are only a subcategory of mass shootings, which are themselves only a subcategory of gun crime. America sharply surpasses other comparably developed countries in each of those classes of violent crime. A country in which those indicators aren't necessarily signs of terminal decline is conceivable, but these aren't the growing pains of a society making difficult advances toward an orderly peace. These are the morbid symptoms of a society coming undone, and they arise largely from policy choices made by interested parties with material motives. Wow. Name and shame. Yeah. The crumbles. The shambles. America is in a shambolic slump. Continuing on, call that deliberate foreclosure of the future, a category of offense that also includes the impoverishment of American mothers and children, far out of proportion to their international counterparts. Blithe indifference, bordering on outright malice toward any policy or practice suggesting care for the climate, environment, or preservation of the majesty of the natural world. The subtle but rising set of pressures and risks, coupled with an overall sense of stagnation that, taken together, amount to the reason millennials now have the lowest birth rate of any generation on record. The reckless foreclosure of the future is perhaps most visible in the daily, wanton mistreatment of others that is part of the warp and weft of American life. What the hell is weft? What a word. What is that? Weft. In weaving, the crosswise threads on a loom over and under which other threads, the warp, are passed to make cloth. The warp and the weft. Wow. What a beautiful phrase. Oh my goodness. And this phrase, the reckless foreclosure of the future. I've literally written a poem. Let's see if my site works. Oh no, I think it broke. I actually have written a poem called "The Future Has Been Buried Before Me," like so many years ago. The reckless foreclosure of the future. Foreclosure of the future. What a cadence. But perhaps the most troubling symptom of our cultural rot is the sense, detectable already in some people, that there simply is no future for us at all. This sentiment takes many forms, whether individual or national. Some people are taking their own lives in despair or exhaustion, a phenomenon reflected in spiking suicide rates. Some say there's going to be a national divorce, a coward's term for a second civil war. Hey, look at the book just over my shoulder. It's called The Next Civil War by Stephen Marsh. Yeah, it is one of my. I haven't done it in forever though. I mean, it's kind of dated. You know what I mean, Lacey? Like it's kind of super dated now. So I don't know. I've kind of moved on from that poem. But yeah, Stephen Marsh's book, The Next Civil War, strong recommend. You should totally read this book. It's by a Canadian journalist who writes for the Toronto Star, recommended by Robert Evans, pretty much the only authority on the American crumbles, on this sort of like this looming second civil war that I really trust. And this book basically says, hey guys, let's be real. You look at other countries with these stats, what do you think happened next to them? Let's wake up. Moving on. Some say there's going to be a national divorce, a coward's term for a second civil war, and some say there ought to be such a war, and it's difficult to distinguish between the two. Either way, if you take them at their word, there is no future for the United States of America. Some say the planet is dying and we're already living on borrowed time. Those people have something like an endpoint in mind. Then there are some who say that every terrible thing, including even in this untenable thing that no civilization could endure, this demonic murder lottery of school children, simply must go on. And somehow, they are winning. After all, wasn't the Newtown Massacre like the breaking of a seal? The final entry in a national catalog of stunned loss that had begun with Columbine? It wasn't that there would be no more losses. It was only that we could no longer be stunned. Yesterday, before the families of Uvalde had buried their children, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton said in a televised interview that he would much rather have law-abiding citizens armed and trained so that they can respond when something like this happens, because it's not going to be the last time. End quote. That is to say, it's going to go on indefinitely. It's not an end, exactly. But life inside a permanent postscript to one's own history. Here's America after there was no more hope. Oh my god. Can we get the interview? No. It's just a quote. Holy shit. Gulp. Moving on. We are already living through this. It is hard to bear. All around us, things that ought to matter shrink in proportion to things that ought not to. A sense of real agency in politics or government feels limited, distant. Lives that used to seem perfectly accessible to your average young person seem impossible now, while darkly fantastical lives like those of mass shooters whose profiles are now too many and too common to differentiate, with their weird paramilitary bravado and meme-inflected manifestos, are growing more familiar to us. Holy shit, you nailed it on the head. Absolutely nailed it on the head. Regular people can't go out and get a home, can't have a normal job to feed their families, but oh golly gee, we sure can have all these really crazy people having all sorts of liberties and freedoms. I fear they'll become more familiar still. When we say in despair that these men are byproducts of a society we've created, how could we possibly stop them? We could be referring to almost anyone in the great chain of diffuse responsibility for our outrageous, inexcusable gun violence epidemic. The lobbyists who argued for those guns to be sold like sporting equipment, the politicians who are too happy to oblige them, the shooters themselves. Moral decline of this kind produces strange and grotesque effects as it works its way acid-like through a society. Resignation takes the form of anger, mistrust, hypervigilance, depression, withdrawal. Nihilism arrives not as society fading quietly to dust, but as fruit, flush, with lurid color, ripening until bursts. It is the fruit of a culture of death. Holy shit. That slapped 10 times harder than I thought it would. I'm like literally sick to my stomach. And it was actually a short piece for the Atlantic for once. You can actually get through it in a single reading. That was insane. I cannot believe what we just read. Moving on. Oh god, moving on. Oh my word. That was upsetting. Yeah, Elizabeth Brennig. If you ever see her name, fucking prose so strong it's poetry. Must be missing a section. Yeah, we just didn't click on all the links. It's one of those things. It's an iceberg. You want to keep going, you can. Okay, moving on. Yikes! Oh my goodness. And just to sort of, the thing that she pointed out that was really important is how unwilling people are for this to be happening. Like, they're being dragged into this. Where did she say that? Like, there's a poll, 88% in new polls support background checks on all gun sales. There hasn't been, like, any major meaningful legislation at the federal level since Sandy Hook in 10 years, in a decade. Survey from Morning Consult and Politico showed that 73% of respondents strongly support universal background checks and 15% somewhat support the requirement. Only 4% said they somewhat oppose background checks and another 4% strongly oppose them. Like, come on. Like, there's no more wiggle room anymore. You look at, if you come at it from like a scientific point of view, oh god, I hate this shit. Off. Okay, cool. Yeah, the science is clear. Gun control saves lives. This is Scientific American. By enacting simple laws to make guns safer and harder to get, we can prevent killings like the ones in Uvalde and Buffalo. It's a choice. It's absolutely a choice. And so, like, that's one aspect of it. We're really coming at it from the cultural lens, right? Like, this is a uniquely American problem. It is uniquely because our culture is disintegrating. It is because the empire is crumbling. And then we're going to get to the specifics, because the stories that are coming out from the cops right now do not make sense. Do not make sense. But the backdrop is very important. We don't need to know this. We just need to know that the science is abundantly clear. More guns do not stop crime. Guns kill more children each year than auto accidents. More children die by gunfire in a year than on-duty police officers and active oh my god, sorry, I'm just gonna pause the music. This is crazy. More children die by gunfire in a year than on-duty police officers and active military members. I missed that part. Okay, I'm just gonna put that on my stream. Honestly, I'm just gonna put that right up top. Right up top. Yeah. Wow. Oh my god. Wow. More children die by gunfire. Oh my god. That breaks me. That breaks me. That's so insane. The stats are unspeakable. They don't have a choice anymore. Biden needs a legacy. Let it be gun control and healthcare access. What's he gonna do? What's he gonna do, Lacey? What's he gonna do? His hands are tied. Manchin already said he wouldn't get rid of the filibuster, which means they need Republicans to get anything through the Senate. There's already bills sitting, waiting for the Senate to pass. They're not going to pass them. How many of those deaths are due to lack of access to health service? From what I understand, like police officers usually die from like car accidents. They're usually getting into car accidents in a chase or something, or suicide deaths. A lot of like suicide deaths. He has to do something. Okay, but I understand. I know he has to. I know he has to. But like that doesn't mean it's actually politically feasible. Like Republicans are crazy, man. They'll go to bat. They'll absolutely go to bat. You saw what happened with Beto yesterday. They were shouting at him to get out of there because he dared to speak up. And so Scientific American talks about car safety and like regulations and how it decreased because it was like the biggest thing. And now we're gonna talk about how guns kill more than cars. So this is stuff we've all covered. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Like I know Biden's gonna do something, but he ain't gonna like. I don't know what he's like. Here we go. No, not a single GOP senator voted to advance a bill to combat domestic terrorism, neo-Nazism, and white supremacy in the wake of 2 mass shootings. Okay? Yeah, thoughts and prayers. Let's go. Yeah, for real. Yeah, for real. The Senate just failed to begin debate on a bill to combat domestic terrorism and white supremacy. Democrats pushed the bill in the wake of the Buffalo shooting. Remember the guy who had the N-word literally written on his like his AR-15 that traveled hundreds of miles to go to a supermarket that like was a fixture of the community and only targeted black people, saw a white dude and was like, oh, sorry, dude, don't want to scare you. Republicans argued that the bill is unnecessary and claimed it would be used to target conservatives. This is the main problem. Like when you dig into like the research on extremism online and why it's allowed to proliferate, for instance, Facebook doesn't want to crack down on extremism because it would hurt essentially a lot of conservatives who are spreading it, and that's like kind of their base. So it's getting into a really bad spot. The final vote tally was 47-47. That's what's going to happen. With every Democrat voting in favor and every present Republican voting against, beginning debate on the measure, thus falling short of the 60-vote filibuster threshold. Again, we hear about this filibuster, this thing that's not even in the Constitution, that essentially has been used almost entirely to roll back civil rights in the Senate. So yeah, it's like not a good situation. C'est pas bon là. Okay, so we're gonna get into the shifting and conflicting stories. I'm just trying to pull up the next one. Yeah, that's a really messed up story. This is later. Okay, there's also this, which is Ted Cruz got pressed by Sky News. If you haven't seen this clip, it's, yeah.
There are 19 sets of parents.
I think we tried to watch it yesterday, and it's absolutely worth watching because it's news. But I got so pissed off at Cruz, I couldn't even last like 10 seconds. But let's try again.
Who are never going to get to kiss their child goodnight again.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the heart of the issue.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
The proposals from Democrats in the media, inevitably, when some violent psychopath murders people.
A violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily. 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s.
If you
Like, Cruz is literally saying violent psychopath as if, like, other people don't know these people exist and we haven't thought about them and what to do with them, like, as a society. Like, just walks right into that one.
want to stop violent crime, the proposals the Democrats
step
have,
back.
none of them would have stopped this.
But why does this only happen in your country? I really think that's what many people around the world just, they cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism so awful?
You know, I'm sorry you think American exceptionalism is awful.
That's Cruz's response. What, you think this is bad? You think the exceptionalism of America to let their kids die more often than police officers is bad? The kids were not killed with knives or bear traps? No. I think someone posted a list of like all the mass shootings in like recent memory. There's like 15 of them. AR-15 every single time. And it's like AR-15 style. Like if you get into debates with gun bros, they just like will argue up and down. Like did you know AR stands for Armalite and not assault rifle? Ooh, that must mean you don't know what guns are. It's awful. It's awful talking to these people.
I think this aspect of it.
You got your political agenda.
No, it's
God,
honestly,
God love you.
Senator,
God love
I
you.
just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
It is just an American problem, sir.
Mr. Cruz,
Hides
why
with
is
cops.
America the only country that faces
Goes to
this
the
kind
cops.
of
You know what?
mass shooting?
Yeah.
But you can't answer that.
Cops,
You
save
can't
me.
answer that, can
Save
you,
me,
sir?
cops.
You can't answer that.
You
Why
know,
is this
Why
country?
is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest
Then
country
why
on
are
It may
earth.
be
dying
and
it
stop
may be the
being a
freest, it may be the most...
Imagine thinking your question is propaganda as he talks about America being the freest, safest, bravest place. Oh,
Why are our kids dying in
God.
school?
Why are kids dying in schools? It's a very legitimate question. Bro, Cruz is the worst. He is like, okay, now that we're getting our blood pumped up, let's listen to some interesting reports. This is an
We've heard that some
interview.
law enforcement officers actually went into school to get their kids out. Can you talk about that?
Right, so what we do know, Vanessa, right now that there was some police officers, families trying to get their children out of the school because it was an active shooter situation right now. It's a terrible situation right now.
I'll find a better clip.
And of course, just as we mentioned, the loss of life, it's just terrible. It's a terrible tragedy right now that took place. But again, we got to keep acknowledging those brave men and women that actually were there on scene that met this suspect. And of course, we know that they were met with gunfire. Some of them were shot. But at the end of this, the suspect was shot and is now deceased. The threat is now neutralized.
And we're hearing...
Okay. Yeah, that's the one part I really want confirmation on. Like, I think he says it in this clip, and I think there might be a better one that we can listen to. Otherwise, we'll go back to that one. But yeah, I think from what I understand, some police officers went in and rescued their own kids.
Facing reporters from around the world, trying to clarify the timeline of Tuesday's
Diabolical.
massacre. But their answers raising even more questions.
We're still grabbing a lot of information.
Authorities say the gunman crashed his grandmother's truck at 11:28 a.m. Witnesses report seeing him carrying a long gun and a bag. He fired at two people outside of a funeral home across the street before heading to the elementary school. At 11:30, the first 911 call came in. This video shows the gunman dressed in black, long gun in hand, entering the school 10 minutes later at 11:40. Police say the doors appeared to be unlocked.
Like, one of the questions being raised now is like just like a dozen minutes or so between when he crashed his car, the shooter, and like people are like calling in 911 because he shot at other people. He shot the grandma. He just crashed his car. So like 911's aware, but then there's like a dozen minutes where he's outside the schoolyard. Like, I don't understand.
As for whether or not anyone tried to stop him from entering, yesterday, director of the Texas Department of Public Safety said this.
There was a brave Consolidated Independent School District resource officer that approached him, engaged him, and at that time, gunfire was not exchanged.
But today, the department telling me this.
Was there a school officer on campus, and was that school officer armed? Because that's what we've been told.
So at this time? No. There was not an officer readily available, armed. No.
That's
an officer?
confusing.
No.
Why?
Nothing. I can't answer that yet. I'll circle back with you.
there's a 12-minute gap from when he crashes his truck to when he enters the school. 12 minutes. What happened in that 12 minutes?
You gotta understand, 11:30 is the information we have at this point. We got a crash and a man with a gun. And then you have responding officers. That's the information we have right now.
4 minutes after the shooter entered, local police arrived at 11:44. The shooter fired at them, so the officers retreated and called for reinforcements.
We need specialty equipment. We need body armor.
They need more
we need
stuff, everybody.
Precision riflemen, negotiators. They're also evacuating personnel, students, teachers.
A tactical team arrived at 12:47.
U.S. Border Patrol tactical teams arrive. They make entry, shoot and kill the suspect.
Police acknowledging the shooter was in the classroom for an hour before they were able to take him out. In that time, 19 children were shot and killed, along with 2 of their teachers.
Could anybody have gone there sooner? You gotta understand, small town.
Video taken after the
small
shooting
town,
rampage.
so it's small, so it's easy to get from A to B. Oh right, 11:30 is when the donuts are ready. It's when they're freshest and hottest.
Shows loved ones being restrained outside the school,
Literally being arrested.
unable to get to the children.
Oh yeah, Lacey. Oh yeah, I think there's already like calls for a federal investigation. This is gonna sprawl, and the police are gonna do everything they can to investigate themselves.
Begging officers there to charge in.
They're used to impunity at this
Tom
point.
Yamas joining me now. First of all, thank you for pushing for those answers. Important questions. Also, something else has changed here. We were told that everything was confined to one classroom. That's not the case?
No, we've just gotten some new information. Texas investigators are now telling NBC News the shooter targeted children in 4 different classrooms. I just got done speaking with some residents here in Uvalde. Lester, they're very upset. They're upset about what happened here.
4.
They're upset with discrepancies with police. They're upset about this timeline. They just told me they're not sure who to believe now.
Yeah. Police are arresting parents. Taking forever. Massive 12-minute gap. 4 classrooms, apparently. May have also gone in to save their own kids. It's gonna get worse, everybody. It's about to get a whole lot worse. Yeah, there's this story that's been going around.
To survive.
I was hiding hard and I was telling my friend to not talk because he's gonna hear us. The cop said help if you need help, and then one of the persons in my class said help. The guy overheard and he came in and shot her.
Oh my god.
And then the cops barged into that classroom, and the guy shot the cops, and the cops just started shooting.
When the gunman was dead, the little boy tried to get help.
Just opened the curtain, and then I just put my hand out.
So, allegedly, according to this kid, the cop said, ask for help. A kid said help, and it revealed his location. I got the kid killed. Allegedly. Yeah. Moving on. I think this is the full press conference, so we're gonna try to watch it, because I caught just a few clips, and it was insane. It was one of the most confusing. It was very bizarre. And like anyone who's like familiar with like law enforcement stuff, like their commentary was interesting.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, this is what we're gonna watch. I'm gonna go to the washroom. Up here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hydration check. Yeah, no, it's super dark. It's super dark, Lacey. America is falling apart. If you can't protect kids, what's it all for? What's it all for?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victor Escalon, Regional Director for DPS South Texas. Thank you so much for being here today. My goal today on this press conference, is to give you a snapshot where we're at today. This incident happened on Tuesday, May 24th. So there's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of people involved in this investigation. I'm going to give you a summary of what happened. But before I do that, I was able to make it here during the event on May 24th. Same with a lot of other law enforcement officers that came to this event, this critical incident. I got to see the victims, I got to see the officers, I got to see the community members. It is so hard. It's hard to take. It's traumatic. We're all hurting inside. We're hurting inside for the community members in Uvalde.
I genuinely am wondering right now if he's saying that him having to experience the trauma of the parents is what hurts. I literally, that's how I'm interpreting him so far. He has yet to say. We're like a minute and a half in. He's now just getting to condolences for the family, but framed through having to meet them. What?
Texas. We're hurting inside with our local partners that have to live here and work here every day.
What the fuck? Wait, what? Wait, he didn't talk about the parents?
It is so hard. It's hard to take. It's traumatic. We're all hurting inside. We're hurting inside for the community members in Uvalde, Texas. We're hurting inside with our local partners that have to live here and work here every day.
Oh my god, he's actually literally just talking about his own emotional trauma right now. Oh my god. Oh my god, he's talking about how the cops had bad feelings. Oh my god.
The victims, the family members.
There you go.
We feel for them.
Holy what a...
I'm a
oh
father.
my god, finally.
I can't go home tonight and hug my kids. That hurts. The members behind me are family members. Their kids. It's tough. It's tough. It's hard.
Yeah.
That gives us the motivation to move on.
See.
To do good work for Uvalde, Texas. For the victims.
Bro.
We speak for the victims, and we take that dear.
We speak for the victims. Holy fuck. This psycho just said we speak for the victims.
Before I get started, Texas Rangers are leading this investigation.
Bro.
We can't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. We have ATF, FBI, CBP,
This
Border
is
Patrol,
diabolical.
Uvalde County District Attorney's Office.
He has yet to make any expressions from the perspective of the parents who may have lost a child. Yeah, no, stay away from Texas, especially as a woman, man. They'll fucking snap you up and, I don't know, do weird shit.
On and on and on. But the agencies I told you are the main ones that are assisting with this investigation. We want to know what happened.
Man.
Recreate the scene. That takes days. That takes hours. That takes time.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Uh-huh.
Then we have to do a lot of interviews. So we just started. We started on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. We're still grabbing
that must be hard.
A lot of information.
That must be hard on you.
We also, what's important to us is why. Why did he do this?
That doesn't matter.
Why did he do this? Who is
Doesn't
this
matter
man?
anymore. Doesn't matter.
The suspect.
Literally doesn't matter.
We're going to find out.
Doesn't matter.
With all the different agencies that are involved, we're working every angle that's available.
Oh yeah, Lacey.
We won't
Yeah,
stop.
Lacey. There's even some police departments where if your intelligence score, your IQ score is too high, they don't really want to hire you because there's the expectation that you'll probably leave within 5 years, and so it's not worth investing in you. I think the part that I find fascinating is that you need 4 years. You need 3 to 4 years of college to become a hairdresser and 6 months of training to become a police officer. That's America for you.
Until we get all the answers that we possibly can.
Policing is just a pillar of white supremacy at this point.
So again, I want to thank these men and women
Don't pass the
that are behind
personality
us
test?
supporting the DPS and the Rangers.
What's the personality test?
So there's a lot of information I'm going to give you. There's some new information as of Tuesday that I wanted
Same
to clear
camera.
up.
We have more requirements for police in Canada. I don't think it's 6. Don't we have like a proper police academy? I'm gonna check that out. I mean, don't get me wrong. Police in Canada suck. You know, suck the wind out of the air. I mean, like there's very damning reports on Toronto, very damning reports on Montreal for racial policing.
I want to clear up. That's been pushed out. We'll continue to have updates in the coming days. Once the information is obtained and we're able to confirm and corroborate that. We want to make sure we're pushing out the right information. Early on, when we came in, we received...
Oh my god, you just need a high school degree? Are you fucking kidding? Oh god, what is going on with police? Oh no. Wait, okay, this is not... Wait, in Canada. These are both pretty damning, but... Get an education. Secondary school education. A degree in policing or criminology is an added advantage, but you don't need it. Be Canadian. Be 19. Speak English or French. Be fit. Look and see. Have excellent character. And don't be a crook. Oh my fucking god. What? The Vancouver Police Department takes 44 weeks. RCMP takes 26. What is 44 weeks in years? That's over a year. That's twice as long. Right? It's like 32. No, it's like 52. Oh, it's not even a year. It's 52 weeks in a year, not 30. Man, not even a year to become a police officer, and teachers have to do like how many? Oh my god. Okay.
Getting a lot of information from a lot of different locations.
11 months.
That's a baseline. You start there. We made some reports.
Oh my god, it's not enough.
But since then, we started doing interviews. We started working the crime scene, so we're cooperating. I want to share some of that.
We're cooperating?
It's a small piece of information right now, but it'll grow within days. So please, thank you for being here and being patient with us.
What do you mean you're cooperating?
It means a lot.
Why wouldn't you be?
On Tuesday, May 24th at 11:28, suspect just west of here wrecks his vehicle, pickup truck that he took from his grandmother. He had just shot his grandmother in the face. She's alive. She's stable at this point. 11:28, he's sitting there at the bar ditch. He jumps out the passenger side of the truck.
Okay.
According to witnesses, he's got a long arm, rifle, and a bag. Later we find out it's ammunition. He walks around, he sees 2 witnesses at the funeral home across the street from where he wrecked. He engages and fires towards them. He continues walking. He continues walking towards the school. He climbs a fence. Now he's in...
Yeah, he kind of left that part out, I noticed, as well, Lacey. Yeah, they would have gotten the 911 call. But I guess that's how... He's not mentioning those parts, like who called 911 or when. He's just kind of saying what information they had at the time.
The parking lot. Shooting at the school. Multiple times. 11:40. He walks into the west side of Robb Elementary.
Just walks in. Like, how
According
did
to
that
reports,
Wait, what?
video we have obtained from outside, inside, and again, we're still combing through that.
Okay.
So bear with us. Multiple rounds, numerous rounds are discharged in the school.
Okay.
We're trying to get a number. We're in the process of analyzing that video. 4 minutes later, local police departments, Uvalde Police Department, the Independent School District Police Department, are inside, making entry. They hear gunfire, they take rounds They move back, get cover,
They move back.
and during that time,
Wow.
they approach where the suspect is at.
Wait,
According to the
wait,
information I have,
wait.
he
You
went
said
in-
they moved back, but then they approached. Which is it?
They take rounds. They move back, get cover, and during that time, they approach where the suspect is at.
Okay, they approached from cover.
According to the
They're
information
engaging.
I have, he went in at 11:40. He walked, and I'm at approximate 20 feet, 30 feet. He makes a right. He walks into the hallway. He makes a right, walks another 20 feet. Turns left into a schoolroom, into a classroom
Okay.
that has doors open in the middle.
Okay.
Officers are there. The initial officers, they receive gunfire. They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire they're receiving. But we have officers calling for additional resources. Everybody that's in the area, tactical teams. We need equipment. We need specialty equipment. We need body armor. We need precision riflemen.
He's just said it. He just fucked up. Even by that account, he fucked up. Right? Like, if you're admitting that you engaged with someone shooting and he's already in the school and that you retreated and called for more resources, you've already admitted that you didn't do your job.
Negotiators. So during that time that they're making those calls to bring
40
in
minutes.
help
40 minutes.
solve this problem and stop it immediately, they're also evacuating personnel, not say personnel, students, teachers. There's a lot going on. A lot complex situation. They're measuring. Approximately
That's
an
the
hour
real
later,
question. That's the real question, Lacey. I think we're gonna find out that a stray bullet. Yeah, I absolutely would. I'm actively entertaining the idea that police accidentally killed at least one of the kids and then wanted to kind of control the situation as much as possible. I'm just like, oh, okay, maybe we don't have a handle on this.
U.S. Border Patrol tactical teams arrive. They make entry, shoot and kill the suspect. But you also had a Uvalde County deputy and Uvalde Police Department that made entry and killed the suspect.
That line is also important. Some people are dwelling on it. There's been other reports that the person who shot the shooter is like some elite team who like fights off drug cartels at the border or something crazy shit like that. And that he was out at a diner, got the call 40 miles away, drives there and like heads right in, no helmet, no vest, nothing, goes in and shoots and gets the kill. And this line, some are speculating, is the local police department trying to say they were a part of it, that they breached at the same time, that, you know, they're just as responsible for taking down the killer.
Immediately, numerous officers. Now it turns into a rescue operation. How do we save these children? How do we save these children? Some made it out. We don't have a hard number yet, but that was a goal. And then continuing, making the area safe, continued. A lot of movement.
Yeah, some got out, and apparently it was theirs.
Now it turns into a rescue operation. How do we save these children?
Bro.
How do we save these children? Some made it out. We don't have a hard number yet.
Which
but that
ones
was
made
a
it
goal.
out?
And then continuing, making the area safe, continued. A lot of moving parts afterwards.
I think that's him admitting
During,
it.
they were taking gunfire, negotiations, and developing a team to make entry to stop them.
They're getting their team together for 40 minutes. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
I'll take a few questions. And again, look, on summary, one more thing I forgot to mention.
So many questions.
That
at this
that I want to
point.
clear up that came out early on. It was reported that a school district police officer confronted the suspect that was making entry.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull that source later, Lacey. But yeah, from what I understand, it was someone who like works for whatever their border police is called. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Not accurate. He walked in unobstructed.
Not the best
initially.
source though. Like Daily Mail and New York Post are reporting it. So
From the grandmother's house to the bar ditch to the school, into the school, he was not confronted by anybody.
not confronted.
To clear the record on that. 4 minutes later,
Do you feel gaslit?
law
I feel
enforcement
gaslit.
are coming in to solve this problem. Stand by.
Stand
So-
by. Stand by, he says.
Just want to clear that up. That's very important. And again, this will happen as we move forward. So thank you. I'll take a few questions.
He told him to stand by and then said nothing and said, okay, now I'll take questions. What a guy.
So right now, during the investigation, it appears it was unlocked. So we're going to look at that and try to corroborate that as best as we can.
Back door is just unlocked.
I do that. Hey, please, one at a time, and
Oh, he's upset.
we'll address as many questions as we can. So let me finish this question.
One at a time, announce your name, announce your network, okay? Be respectful, please.
Be respectful, everybody.
So Josh, thank you for the question. So right now, it appears it was unlocked. Like I said, it goes back to the investigation. It takes time. We will find out.
Oh, some suggestions, Lacey, have been to only have one exit and one entrance and one exit for a school building. Let's just get rid of doors. We don't need doors, do we?
As much as we can why it was unlocked, or maybe it was locked. But right now, it appears
Oh, yeah.
it's unlocked.
They will make it a door issue.
Yes, sir.
The question was, while he was in there, you said that there was negotiation. Was he responding to the negotiation, and was there gunfire while you were negotiating?
So during that time, right now, according to the information we have, the majority of the gunfire was in the beginning. In the beginning. I say numerous, more than 25. I mean, it was a lot of gunfire in the beginning. During the negotiations, there wasn't much gunfire, other than trying to keep the officers at bay. But that could change depending as once we analyze the video. But right now, according to the information, he did not respond. So
Was there a school officer on campus, and was he armed? Because that's what we've been told.
this time, no. No.
No.
There was not an officer readily available armed. No.
Yeah, these people get 40% of the city budget.
No. Nothing. I can't answer that yet. I'll circle back with you again.
How do you not know?
As we do that investigation, we have all these questions we want to answer.
Yeah.
So, but I'll get back with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you gotta understand.
If you didn't hear, there's 12 minutes between when he crashed the truck and entered the school. What happened in those 12 minutes?
11:30 is the information we have at this point. And we
Oh, yeah,
confirm.
Lacey.
11:30 a.m. The PD gets a.
And apparently there had been like a bunch of money poured into schools to put fences, to change the doors, to put in like all the surveillance options, to have resource officers. 2 weeks ago, apparently they'd just done drills with like there's like a SWAT team for the town of like just a few 10,000 people or a couple 10,000 people. Uvalde's not that big, and they have a SWAT team that apparently took 40 minutes to deploy in a place they had just finished doing like a training exercise. So I don't know, something's up.
We got a crash and a man with a gun.
12 minutes.
And then you have responding officers. That's
And you
what it is. If it's 12 minutes, from 11:30 to 11:40, that's the information we have right now. Look, at the end.
He knows it sounds bad. He knows it sounds bad. That's why he's already trying to jump in front of it. Listen to this.
At the end of the day, our job is to report the facts and have those answers. We're not there.
That's why the story changes.
Over here, over here. Say it again.
When was the first 911 call?
So right now, the first 911 call is at 11:30. I will get the time what it took to respond. So we'll have that answer. Yes. Could. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities. Until we received an interview, because there was numerous officers at that classroom, numerous. Once we interview all those officers, what they were thinking, what they did, why they did it, the video, the residual interviews, we'll have a better idea. Could anybody have got there sooner? You gotta understand, it's a small town. You have people from Eagle Pass, from Del Rio, Laredo, San Antonio responding to a small community.
Should the officers have gone sooner?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. Again, it goes back, our job is to report the facts. Report the facts, and later we can answer those questions. I don't have enough information to answer that question just yet. So, one more question, please.
Is it accurate that eyewitnesses and potentially parents of the students were urging the police to go in while you were waiting for a tactical SWAT team, even that some parents were asking to borrow police armor so they could make a counter-assault on the school?
He's asking if it's true if parents were demanding to get in and that being told not to by police officers and willing even to take their kits to go in as a counter-assault team.
I have heard that information, but we have not verified.
Not verified it. The videos are going around, my guy.
We have not verified it. Is that a true statement or not? Or is it just rumor out there?
Is it rumor? There's like at least half a dozen videos out there right now.
You gotta understand, we're getting a lot of information. We're trying to track down and see what is true. We want to vet it. That's all I have for questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This guy is not answering questions. He's not answering questions. One of the stories that I find most fascinating, I think Wall Street Journal's reported on it, New York Times, Reason here has it as well. Cops handcuffed, arrested a Uvalde mom for trying to rescue her kids. The performance of law enforcement appears to have been even worse than previously known. Early reporting that a school resource officer confronted alleged killer Salvador Ramos and engaged him in a gunfight was erroneous. We just learned about that from the man himself. Video footage obtained by the New York Times shows parents frantically begging the police to either enter the school and intervene or get out of the way so that they could rescue their kids themselves. Their pleas were in vain. In fact, it took the police so long to get the situation under control that one mother who was 40 miles away when she learned about the shooting had enough time to drive to the school. According to the Wall Street Journal, police arrested and handcuffed her to prevent her from trying to save her children. Miss Gomez, a farm supervisor, said that she was one of numerous parents who began encouraging, first politely, and then with more urgency, police and other law enforcement to enter the school. Oh, I feel gaslit as well, I feel gaslit as well. Oh, we care about facts and truth. After a few minutes, she said, federal marshals approached her and put her in handcuffs, telling her she was being arrested for intervening in an active investigation. Ms. Gomez convinced local Uvalde police officers, whom she knew, to persuade the marshals to set her free. Around her, the scene was frantic. She said she saw a father tackled and thrown to the ground by police and a third pepper sprayed. Once freed from her cuffs, Miss Gomez made her distance from the crowd, jumped the school fence, and ran inside to grab her two children. She sprinted out of the school with them. She went and saved her fucking kids. And the police were one of the main impediments. And I understand the police are trying to, maintain order so that they can control the situation. But it was only out of control because they were not doing their jobs, just straight up. They were sitting on their ass, sitting on their heads. I think that's one of the stories that upsets me the most. That a woman actually had to fucking go in there. No, she did not save her other kids. It sounds like she only saved her two, just like the police who allegedly went in there to save their own kids. I'll be right back. This is the part that messes me up. Like, they're just arresting parents. What is this part? Like, what is this? What is happening right here? Like, I've already seen it, and I still can't digest the police, like, dogpiling the parents. Why? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
We're taking shit, he ain't done yet. He gay. Not good. Y'all should have fucking changed that motherfucker like that. Let him go. What the fuck you doing to him? Let him go.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I'm just kind of at a loss for words. Yeah, so this guy, full of shit. All right, everybody, let's watch.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, in the past 10 days, 2 separate teenage boys have committed horrifying massacres in public places.
We're going to watch him sweep this under the rug and see how the right-wing conservative movement is spinning this. And if you enjoy this content, like and subscribe and follow everybody. It helps the channel.
On May 14th, 18-year-old Peyton Gendron murdered 10 shoppers in a grocery store in Buffalo. And then yesterday, 18-year-old Salvador
fails to mention that it was a white supremacist who had the N-word written on his AR-15.
Ramos killed 19 small children and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Texas. Both Gendron and Ramos were very obviously mentally ill. The people around them knew that.
Mentally ill,
Both
everybody.
killers had told other people they planned to commit a mass shooting, and then they did. So what can we learn from this? Well, the first most obvious answer is that the system in place didn't work.
Oh.
Gendron's teacher sent him to a mental hospital for evaluation. They knew he was a threat. They tried their best. He committed a massacre anyway.
Whoops.
So we know for a fact that what we're doing isn't working. But we should also be honest enough to acknowledge that it's very hard to know what to do instead.
Oh.
Despite what
other countries don't exist, so it's not like there's studies or evidence about this problem.
You may have heard the problem isn't that we don't care enough. There's not a person in this country who is not horrified by the sight of murdered children. It's the worst thing, and everybody thinks that. The problem is that the human mind is much more complex and harder to control than we like to admit. A person who is intent on committing violence is very hard to stop under any circumstances. An act of Congress isn't going to do it. Neither will gun control. There are more guns in this country than there are people. There always have been.
Gun control will fix this problem. Sure, there's more guns than people, but that's just history. That's nature. Don't you know that every society eventually produces more guns than people? It's just a natural thing that America has always had.
However you feel about that fact, you can acknowledge that we will never get rid of all of those guns. The Constitution prohibits that, and you would set off a civil war if you tried to do it. So
it's a veiled threat right there, eh? He's threatening. He's like, what? Come get the guns.
However you feel about that fact,
for us,
you can acknowledge that we will never get rid of all of those guns. The Constitution prohibits that, and you would set off a civil war if you tried to do it.
When he says the Constitution prohibits that, the Supreme Court Justice, I think Berger, was like, the recent interpretation of the Second Amendment in the DCV Heller case is a fraud. I repeat the word fraud perpetrated on the American public. It's like a direct quote. I think I'll pull it later.
So gun control, whether you
also sweep the gender component, of these under the rugs too. The misogynistic society glorifies anger and aggressive bullshit in specific genders and demeans any other expression of emotions. I'm pretty sure it's none, Lacey. I'm pretty sure it's like all 18 to 21-year-olds, young male, often white, not always, often shooting up other white schools, expressions of misogyny. That was true for the Polytechnique massacre here in Canada, and full agree.
And the slogan's appealing or not will not stop the next patron Gendron or Salvador Ramos, and every rational person knows it. The only way to stop these killings is to figure out why American society is producing so many violent young men.
One reason is because when these things happen, people go onto TV and repeat the name and repeat all his accomplishments so that there's a bunch of fame. And this has been something that psychologists have been begging broadcasters to stop repeating. You refer to him as the perpetrator, as the shooter, whatever. Just like, who cares about who this guy is? And here, he's wondering what could we possibly do to make the situation better. I don't know. Listen to the decades of science on the matter. I don't know. You got two entire different fields who are contributing very clear, very easy to adopt standards that would actually improve the situation.
There is a reason they are acting this way. What is that reason? And it's not just mass shooters, by the way, the ones you see on television. It's gangbangers and carjackers and armed robbers and indiscriminate haters who push strangers in front of subway trains.
Bro.
We have a lot of people like that in this country all of a sudden, more than you like to think about.
I wonder why.
Why are they acting this way?
I don't know, Tucker Carlson. Why? What did the New York Times say about you spreading white supremacist ideas like the Great Replacement Theory that you've featured on your broadcast dozens of times with all sorts of different guests who are willing to opine quite liberally on this made-up theory that circulates among 4chan groups and neo-Nazis? I wonder what's dividing America.
That's the only question that matters. Of course, it's the only question our leaders hate to address because there's nothing in it for them. Last night, the President of the United States went on television just hours after 19 small children had been murdered. He didn't do that to uplift or unite the country, which was already united in its sorrow. Instead, he took the opportunity to once again harangue anyone who didn't vote for him. And he did it, as always, with a series of stale talking points left over from the 1980s. It was
the hypocrisy is baked in at this point, Lacey. It's part of the tactic. It's just a debate bro tactic at this time, and they've just use it all the time. Just always
a shameful display. Here's part of it.
As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done? What in God's name do you need a solvent for except to kill someone? Deer aren't running through the forest with Kevlar vests on, for God's sake.
Right?
It's just sick.
It's wild, man.
And the gun manufacturers have spent 2 decades aggressively marketing assault weapons, which make them the most and largest profit.
Yep.
For God's sake, we have to have the courage to stand up to the industry.
Children are dying because the gun lobby is profiting.
Yeah,
it's disgusting, he would say something like that. It's also untrue. It's mindless. The New York Times, by the way, said the same thing within hours of the shooting. The gun lobby.
Oh, yeah?
Please. The NRA declared...
What did the New York Times actually say?
Bankruptcy.
AKA Brock Turner. Why are you bringing up Brock Turner?
Last year.
Did he bring up Brock Turner? Did I just miss that?
The NRA is a
good reminder.
In 2021, for example, the tech companies spent more than $70 million lobbying Congress. Big Pharma spent $92 million lobbying Congress in the first quarter of 2021 alone. The NRA spent just $2.2 million total lobbying in all of 2020, a presidential election year.
All I know is that Brock Turner sexually assaulted a woman. That's the only thing I know about that person.
Spare us. Whatever the problem is, it's not the gun lobby. They're not the reason those children were murdered yesterday. It's insulting and divisive.
It's insulting to the gun lobby. It's divisive to the gun lobby, everybody. Focus on the white boy accolades instead of his horrific acts, what they've done to these shooters. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah.
And stupid. This is too serious a moment for nonsense like that. Stop. But over at MSNBC, they were completely convinced. Watch.
And again, as President Biden said, I thought he did an extraordinary job last night. And I really do. I feel sorry for those who actually saw that.
Hey, man, he also called out white supremacy, like during the Tops shooting, which is a step up from, there's good people on both sides.
And were actually forced to say something really about him after he did it. I mean, that's how they make their money. It really makes me really sad for them that they have that dark of a soul, that they're that twisted.
Hell yeah, man. Gun lobby is
Joe Scarborough said a naughty word on TV. This must be serious. And in fact, it is very serious. In fact, it's too serious for tired.
There's nothing more amazing. Like one of the things that's like this is why I like to watch Tucker Carlson. It's because I know he's a smooth operator. I know there's a working mind behind those fucking soulless eyes. And so what are the techniques he is using to convince his audience? How is he framing? It's like watching a highly, I don't know, it's like watching a snake that's been around for like hundreds of millions of years. And the more you study it, the more you learn about its nature, about like how it's able to, I don't know, do its thing. And Tucker Carlson is like absolutely a snake in the business. He, promotes white supremacy regularly, and watching him try to convince his audience is darkly fascinating.
Partisan platitudes from the Reagan era. Update your profile. Politicians offering solutions to the tragedy that in the end serve only to make their political party more powerful should be excluded from this conversation. It is too important. They are speaking in bad faith, obviously.
Bad faith,
and so is anyone
obviously.
whose bodyguards carry extended magazines or other so-called weapons of war. They're hypocrites. They have no standing. Get back to us when you follow your own demands. And anyone on TV who's been accused of a crime should also take this opportunity to be very quiet. No one wants a moral lecture from you.
Notice that he didn't say convicted. He said accused of a crime. Anyone can be accused of a crime, you moron.
But unfortunately, that's essentially all we're getting. More wind. At a time when we need more than that. Beto O'Rourke, who's running for office again because he has no marketable skills, just stormed a press conference to berate Texas officials. He did this in front of the families of some of yesterday's victims. Watch.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sit down. You're out of line and an embarrassment.
Look how quickly they get angry. Watch how fast, like Tucker Carlson is posting this without realizing how bad it makes them look. Look how angry. I mean, we watched this. We watched how calmly and dispassionately that Governor Abbott talked about the shooting. And that's what makes this clip actually really insane to watch. But importantly, they clipped it right at the outrage moment because if you had the other part, you would notice that they weren't getting outraged. They weren't crying. They weren't showing very much emotion about the obviously disturbing part. Oh no, boy, a liberal was rude to us. Like, this is snowflake behavior.
The next shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing.
No, he needs to get his out of here. This isn't the place to talk this over.
This is totally predictable when you...
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
Can you believe that? He's a sick son of a bitch who tried to make a school shooting into a political issue, everybody. Can you believe it? How dare he?
It's only like you. Why don't you get out of here?
Oh, come on. That's saving lives. That's making this a better country. Beto O'Rourke sounds like one of those lunatics from the Westboro Baptist Church. Gets off on making a scene. But that's essentially the answer we've gotten to how to fix and prevent what happened in Uvalde. Please. Anyone who talks like this should be quiet for a minute and leave it to everybody else to figure out why this is happening.
Okay, we're going to take a break from him because he's toxic and evil. We can only do so much of it in one sitting. Teen activists plot to unseat Greg Abbott and other pro-gun lawmakers.
Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm
He's hugging a cop. The only people who have feelings to conservatives are the cops.
Gracious Lord, no tender voice like thine
This
can be.
is from Olivia Juliana. I am 19 years old. I was a student when Santa Fe happened. I was a student when El Paso happened. I am a student now. We are tired of fearing for our lives. We are tired of thoughts and prayers without action, and we will not allow for this kind of tragedy to continue. I'm sick of the way politicians latch onto these issues with their political theater. This is a local government to executive branch issue. Every level is responsible. Texas legislators are responsible. Abbott, Patrick, Paxton are all fucking responsible. Brian Hughes, Dade Phelan, Briscoe Kane, all responsible. All state legislators. Please, for the love of God, support state legislator candidates. Please talk to your friends and family about it, the importance of voting in local and state elections. Yeah, people are very angry right now. Uvalde's GOP congressman won't answer why 18-year-olds can buy assault rifles.
That there is overwhelming agreement among Americans that something should be done. Politico and Morning Consult talked to nearly 2,000 registered voters on background checks for all gun sales. 88% strongly or somewhat support that. 88%. On banning assault-style weapons, 67% support it. Two-thirds. And on preventing firearm sales to people reported as dangerous, 84% support it, just 9% oppose. NBC's senior congressional correspondent Garrett Haake has been in Uvalde. He spoke with Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez this morning, who represents Uvalde and parts of San Antonio. I want you to listen to this exchange about just how easy it is for an 18-year-old to buy an assault rifle in Texas.
You can't buy a beer when you're 18 years old. Why do you need to be able to buy an assault rifle?
You know, I think part of the conversation, we have to be unified. This country is not unified.
I want to go back to my original question. Why does an 18-year-old in Texas need to be able to buy an assault rifle?
The reality is this isn't a new topic. There's been a lot of legislation that's been out there.
You haven't answered my question, though. Why does an 18-year-old need an AR-15 in the state of Texas?
So this is how the legislative process works.
What the fuck?
Is Congress determines the laws. Right now, we have a Congress that won't talk to one another. There's so much rhetoric and hate.
Wow,
I want to bring in Igor Volsky, Executive Director of Guns Down America, and Ben Rhodes, former Deputy National Security Advisor for the Obama administration and an MSNBC political contributor. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Ben,
oh, of course, yeah, they're going to cut off the comment because that's the... I don't think I can actually show... I can only talk about this one. I don't know if it actually shows the blood. I can't put that on stream. But an 11-year-old survivor of Uvalde massacre put blood on herself and played dead, aunt says. The girl's mother says she saw her friend full of blood and she got blood and put it on herself. For 40 minutes. Quote, around midnight, my sister-in-law called me and she was just crying. Like, I think it just hit Mia. I think everything came to reality now, said Blanca Rivera. Rivera said Mia's teacher, Irma Garcia, was one of the 2 teachers killed. Her friends and classmates were also targeted. Rivera said that's when Mia went into survival mode. Mia got some blood and put it on herself so she could pretend she was dead, said Rivera. It's too much for me to play that scene over and over again. But that's what my sister-in-law said. Oh my god. Mia was injured but taken to the hospital and has been released. Quote, my brother said she had bullet fragments in her back, said Rivera. Rivera, a mother of 3, said the family is rallying around Mia to help her recover physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Quote, at this point, we just have to pray and ask God to help us move forward through the situation. I know it's traumatizing as it is. Okay. That's, I'm not crying, you're crying. Oh, thanks for the follow. Thanks, Mirzinski. Oh, jeez. We're moving on to this one. This is next.
The small city of Uvalde and the nation mourn the loss of young lives. Take a look at the memorial that is growing outside Robb Elementary School for the 19 children and 2 teachers killed.
Overnight, a prayer service was also
Jesus
held in
Christ.
Uvalde to honor those members of their community lost in such a senseless manner.
The president is heading to Texas soon, calling on Congress to act on guns. But Capitol Hill appears to be deadlocked again despite broad and growing public support for common sense gun control. Amy starts us off in Uvalde.
I just realized I was clenching my jaw really hard.
Hey, good morning, Amy.
Yeah, good morning, George.
The thing that I completely don't understand is how he spent an hour in that class alone is completely ridiculous. That's the main question everyone's trying to answer right now. And earlier we watched the press briefing and things were not adding up. One of the other major questions was a 12-minute gap between when the shooter crashed his car and 911 calls have been coming in, and they admitted they're aware that he was a man with a gun who just crashed his car, is on the loose. From then to him getting into the school is like 12 minutes, and everybody's like, it's a small town. How did it take you 12 minutes? Like, what's going on? That's a major question people have right now.
Scenes all over Uvalde, like the one behind me. We've watched this makeshift memorial grow throughout the day with balloons and candles and flowers, but now, yes, it has those 21 crosses for the students and teachers murdered here at Robb Elementary School. And this morning, we are learning disturbing new details about just how long the killer was in Robb Elementary before he was finally killed. This morning, urgent calls to end the deadly and senseless acts of violence erupting in our nation's schools.
It is.
Notice that they didn't name the killer. They just used a generic phrase. Following these modern rules on broadcasting.
Intolerable. And it is unacceptable for us to have in the state anybody who would kill little kids in our schools.
That was about as emotional as he got. That was literally as hard as he would get. I just want to make sure I can show all this.
New details emerge about the timeline of terror that unfolded at Robb Elementary School Tuesday morning, killing 19 children and 2 adults. Authorities now say the gunman was in the school for about 40 minutes before he was killed.
40?
Authorities say it all began around 11 a.m. Central Time when the 18-year-old suspect shot his grandmother in the face. Then,
Now 4 kids had to live on with no parents, like actually fully orphaned. Wait, I don't know like what the relationship between the two teachers were.
took off in a car, even though he didn't have a license. Officials say he drove just over 2 miles before crashing about a block and a half from the school. Then, dressed in tactical gear, he ran toward the school with a backpack and a rifle, and at 11:32 was confronted by a school resource officer outside.
But we've been told that's not true. That last part, this must be old by like just a few hours, because that recent press conference
was not exchanged, but the subject was able to make it into the school.
Law enforcement officials say they are reviewing this video.
Yeah, I think I had that queued up after. I just like, it was just so much. Husband of teacher killed in Texas school shooting dies from heart attack. Yeah. Breaking. Family members tell me Joe Garcia, the husband of Uvalde teacher Irma Garcia, just died of a heart attack. The couple had been married 24 years and has 4 children. That's what you're talking about. Oh. Yeah, because teachers care about kids. Of course. Like, fuck. Some psycho came into my classroom. I'll go to the mat. Don't got much of a choice. Run, hide, fight. If he's already in the classroom, probably can't run. Especially if he has a gun. Probably can't hide. There's too many kids. All the good spots get taken, as kids would tell you. So what does that leave you? And it's better he's distracted with you, even for a moment. I don't, like, it's just such an obvious thought process. How did the cops not do that logic? That those, like, what happened? Because, like, from what I understand, there's even, like, training that, like, after Columbine, like, everybody learned from Columbine that you couldn't just, you couldn't just, like, hang back. You couldn't just watch the scene unfold. You couldn't wait for negotiators. You had to get in there as quickly as possible, engage in any way, put pressure on the assailant because they're going to make a mistake. They might commit suicide. That's literally your job, is to put your body on the line. It's like your oath of... Like, people take oaths or something? I wonder what the actual police oath is. Like, did they not just break all their oaths? And so if they were willing to just kind of stand around with their thumbs up their asses, then it's because they think they're immune, right? They can make the logical conclusion there is, I might be able to get through this with less risk. What is the lower risk? It's to wait for SWAT. SWAT's taking a while. Well, what do? Well, I guess we just bully these parents because that's easy. We know that. Like, I'm trying to get into heads, but it's so hard. It's so hard. It's so crazy. Also, throughout the states, they complete the VTR training, Violent Threat Risk Assessment, which contains many steps on what to do in these school situations. Yeah, there was like a whole redesign from what I understood. There's like a post-Columbine era, and yeah, I don't know. Okay, so the other one I had lined up was here. Lawmaker asks FBI to investigate police response to Uvalde massacre, including apparent failure to confront shooter. Texas Democrat is urging the FBI to investigate the police. Representative Joaquin Castro, of course, wants the Bureau to provide a complete and comprehensive account. Request comes after reports law enforcement failed to confront the gunman for up to an hour. Yeah, there's something going on in policing. It is like broken in some ways. Like something's gone off. Something's gone seriously wrong, and it's been obvious for a long time, especially to like POC, to like people of color and indigenous folk. But if you're white, what is it like? If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. So this was a video I came across yesterday, and it was to demonstrate how quickly, like, what you do to get into a door. Okay, so one of the stories was that, I remember Sandy Hook like it was yesterday, and here we are almost 10 years later, something needs to change. No major gun law reform, Brzezinski, like absolutely none. It's wild to think about, but as far as I'm aware, there's been no federal gun legislation. If anything, in the state of Texas, they expanded gun laws. And the dude who did this waited until it was legal for him to buy guns. So they clearly laws do something. So the reason we're watching this is because there was much ado. The original story was that there's one classroom, and we're all trying to wrap our heads around that, and it was like somehow connected, and that the man had barricaded himself in, but in reality the cops were locked out, and they needed to get like some like janitor with a master key or something to unlock it for them. Now I don't know how much of that is true, but what I think is interesting is to look at what you do if you do, like, how do you open a door that is locked, right? And like there's a fire or there's like a serious crisis situation. So we're gonna watch that. I thought it was very instructive because I was reading in the Reddit chat like people freaking out, being like, what the fuck? Cops and firemen all have this like special tool called like an irons. Is it called? Yeah, it's called the irons. Using a set of irons.
We've got a setup down here showing us that we probably have a panic bar on this door, and then we can identify the carriage bolt pattern right here. 2 bolts marrying each other on both sides. More than likely a good indicator that we got a drop off.
So they're talking about recognizing this type of door, and they got this special tool. It's like a wedge tool.
Hit!
Gets a bit of leverage. And he said, I think he said it's holding. Wow, that was interesting. Hit and drive?
Hit! Hit! Drive! Stop! Hit!
I think, did he just switch? Did he just switch right there?
Stop!
Yeah, he just switched. So now he's got like a wider wedge. It's a thin wedge and a wide wedge.
Drive! Stop!
You're using communication, leverage, 90-degree turns.
Hit! Hit! Drive! Stop!
That looks exhausting. Using his shoulder to get as much leverage as possible.
Strike visual. Hit! Hit!
Wow. One hit to get in, a second hit to get the angle further, and then uses leverage to pull it open. Holy shit. 1 minute. So the question is, if police and firemen regularly have the irons, have these tools, and we're watching videos of parents being restrained by cops literally carrying AR-15s. Like, I think that's the part I had the hardest time wrapping my head around, was watching police restrain parents, and they've got the vests on, and they've got they've got a rifle on them. And they most likely have access to these types of tools. Irons to bust open doors to get in there. So what's going on there? I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
We started with conventional forcible entry for a couple of reasons. One is so that we can get the Halligan set and pry outwards to see if the drop bar is even in place. If it's not, we easily defeat the panic bar in a matter of 30 to 45 seconds. The other reason is so that we can pry outwards to see if the drop bar is even in place. If it's not, we easily defeat the panic bar in a matter of 30 to 45 seconds.
Right.
The other reason is so that we can get a pry on the door and feel what we're going up against, and if we have additional locks in place. You can see once we felt that it was in place, we're now attacking the drop bar mount, and we're focusing on the mount that's closest to the lock side.
Right.
This is important so that you're defeating the side closest to where we'll be prying, so we get the additional leverage passed on to the hinge side mount.
Right.
As you can see, it's bouncing up and down while we're striking the bolts. Very rarely do these just quickly be driven off the back side. You need to go back and forth, working one bolt and dropping down to the other bolt, and not getting focused in on one single bolt.
Interesting.
It's rare that they drive right through the door like you see in videos or on props if you've done it that way before. Once they're mounted on an actual mount, it's difficult to drive them all the way off the door.
Wow.
Once we've defeated it, we go back to conventional forcible entry and break the drop bar.
There you have it. A steel bar.
Still outward swinging metal door, metal frame. Still have my obvious panic bar set up over here on the left, and then I have a bolt pattern coming across. We can ignore these bolts from the last evolution. These bolts coming across sometimes will throw people off, making them think that it's panic bars, when in fact it's just mounted a little bit above the panic bar, and rarely do they mount panic bars with these type of carriage bolts. So it's a combination probably of a drop bar and a panic bar. All right. Ready? Hit! Hit! Hit!
It's working. It's so low.
Yeah, let's go the
Hit! 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 Hit!
Yep, more.
So even though they know it's a bar, they're still like communicating,
We're done. All right.
identifying. Still gotta go through all the steps.
Hit! Drive! Stop! Hit! Hit! Drive! Stop!
Twist and then leverage. Would you rather have the irons or the axe?
Hit!
Well, humans are a scary species.
Hold on.
We are terrifying. Oh, that was interesting. 1 minute 30.
So we're looking at the inside of the door again, this one with the half-inch steel drop bar. We're starting conventionally, and you can see the ads being set behind the door. If you notice how much flex and give there is in this frame, that's because of the stick frame construction that we're seeing here. You won't see that much flex when you're in brick or concrete type buildings, and you'll actually get more damage transferred into the door. So we're moving up high and going back in conventionally above the drop bar now that we felt it when we were prying outwards. We're just going to give it one more run conventionally and see if we can overcome and bend that steel out of the way.
Right.
Even though this was half-inch steel, we still bent it out of plumb, probably 2 to 3 inches, and could have overcome it in a different situation. Once we feel that it's steadily in place, we go to attacking the mount again. We're on the lock side mount again, which is important.
Right.
And we go back and forth between both bolts trying to drive the mount off or loosen it up. Again, you'll see this mount didn't fall fully off, which is pretty common, but it did weaken the gap of the door and give us a lot more room to work.
Ooh, wow, yeah, look at that.
As we're driving these bolts through, there are times that the bouncing of that mount might just pop this bar completely out. It's important anytime we're doing irons work like this that we go back and forth between conventional and driving bolts, which is what we're doing right now. Now we have a very large gap in between the door and the frame, and we're able to visualize that drop bar that's in place. We're able to keep one guy prying on the Halligan while the other comes in with the axe and defeats the drop bar.
Nice. Oh my god. Whew. Time-proven hand tool techniques has been passed on to us to pass down to you, so for the sake of basic firemanship, pass it on to others around you. Amazing. Oh man. So yeah, why didn't the cops do that? Why didn't they do this like apparently well-known technique? Comes from the States? Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, like this is stuff I wish I knew. I'm just like, oh, that seems useful. All sorts of situations. Oh god. What did I have that was left? Just give me half a second. Yeah, there's like this big thread about the police scanner, but I think it might be there's a bunch of people listening in on the police scanner. So we might get some news around that there, but yeah, I don't know. I think one reporter was saying it was a bit of a nothing burger. Might have just been a disconnect. Yeah. Geez. The other one I had. Yeah, just a string of stories about police. So like for instance, 1/3 of all Americans killed by strangers are killed by police, according to Granta.org, Granta.com. The largest public demonstrations in a generation are at this moment demanding reform or abolition of the police in the United States. Yeah, man. BLM. Yeah, and okay, so Americans are afraid of many threats to their lives. Serial killers, crazy gunmen, gangbangers, and above all, terrorists. But these threats are surprisingly unlikely. Citation. They're citing themselves. Approximately 3/4 of all homicide victims in America are killed by someone they know. Oh, it just says footnote 2. Here we go. Campaign 0. This looks like an actual study from the DOJ. Okay, that's fair. Just wanted to check like how legit. The real threat from strangers is quite different from what most fear. 1/3 of all Americans killed by strangers are killed by police. This is the story of the hidden numbers of police homicides in the U.S. The killings of Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, and Walter Scott have increased the world's attention to U.S. police violence, yet most Americans underestimate the threat posed by the people charged with keeping them safe. Let's turn to the facts. So that's an interesting article. Police solve 2%, just 2% of all major crimes. This is reported 2020. So I think if you just kind of like do a bit of digging, you're going to find quite a lot of interesting reports, particularly when it comes to real conviction. But I gotta move on, everybody. I gotta get on with my day. I gotta do cool things, and I got a show tomorrow. So if you're in Montreal, and you want to come out to something super interesting, we're doing a the Throw Poetry Collective has a poetry slam, a stress-free slam sans stress. It's gonna be real cool. It's gonna be real poggers. Here you can see it here. We got Dina Smith performing. DNA, as she's known. It's at l'Afro Musée. It's a really interesting venue. It's like venue that's like a museum focused on Black folk in Quebec. And their history and contribution to the culture and society. And yeah, it's going to be stress-free. We'll have points, but they won't matter. People who make it to the second round is by lottery. It's whatever. But it's going to be fun. I'm hoping to see you there. And otherwise, have a lovely day. I'll see you later. Au revoir. I hope you have a genuine smile for something that brings you joy at some point today. Hooey! All right. Bye, everyone.